So what do I think is the next big thing? So let's talk about elitism and being snobby in the synth scene. The one thing I really dislike with working Dawless, if I were a modular synth, what would I be? Hello there and welcome to another BoBeats video, and today I'm answering your questions.
Floyd over on Discord asks, what was a synth that surprised you a lot?
I think that the synth that surprised me the most was the Pulsar 23 drum machine. It's a safe pick because it's one of those beloved synths that is super interesting to a lot of people and also like unattainable for some because of the price tag, and it's not easily available. I saw it the first time at Superbooth, and I think it's just the weight of the kick drum, the bass drum. And I think that it's the weird and unconventional workflow and how you create a drum groove on it or just how you tweak it that surprised me a lot.
Why didn't I make more videos about Electron model samples?
The model samples showed up briefly on my channel, made a little guest appearance with a first look video, kind of first impressions video. I did use it a fair bit, but I didn't love it like I did the Dig Attack. So that's the main reason why it didn't show up. I think it's a capable little sample player, but I also don't think it's really up there with the Dig Attack.
What's the next big thing in music tech?
I actually think, and I'm saying this with no inside information whatsoever, I'm not leaking anything here, this is just pure speculation. I think that the next really big thing would be some sort of push 3, which could probably be a standalone push. I think if Ableton did something that would let you take Ableton Live on the go with you in a standalone format, that could be the next big thing. The one thing I really dislike with working Dawless is that it's actually quite hard to structure a song on most sequencers. The Electron workflow is a little easier because it's faster to copy and paste patterns and it's easier to make variations, but most sequencers are not ideal for creating an arrangement, and that's probably the thing that I miss the most from working in a DAW.
What kind of audio interface solution should I get if I want to do multi-track recording?
When we do multi-track recording of synthesizers, I think that a USB mixer with multi-tracking capabilities is the best way to go, because when you have a hardware rig, you're not really concerned with latency. Latency is the delay between you pressing record in your DAW, for example, and the signal actually being recorded. So there's milliseconds of delay going on there. And with a mixer, multi-tracking mixer, you often have higher latency, for example, than with an audio interface. But what you get with a mixer is that you get more channels for the money you're paying. So the cost per channel, if you will, is lower. So therefore, I think a USB multi-tracking mixer is the best way to go. And just to name a few brands and products that you should check out, I think that Tascam has an excellent series of multi-tracking mixers. I think they're called Model 12. I know that Soundcraft has a really good mixer. Their Signature series, the 22 MTK, that's also really good. Presonus has an affordable multi-tracking mixer as well. So there's multiple different options here to choose from. So it mainly comes down to the features you want. All of them are capable. I think that the Tascam one is especially interesting because it has SD card recording, which can be really handy as well. So go and check that one out.
The next question is cheeky. Answer a question that you'd like to be asked.
So a question I think worth answering would be, how often am I paid to make videos about synths? And the answer to that question is very, very rarely. I think I make maybe 20, 30 videos a year, maybe 40 videos some years. And oftentimes it's just like a couple of videos that I'm paid by the manufacturer to create a video. My latest paid video was, for example, the SP404 Mark II video. And that was one of maybe 2 videos last year where I was paid to create something, where I was like commissioned to do something. And otherwise, I just make whatever I feel like making in the way that I feel like making it, for better or worse.
Do I get synth burnout or synth fatigued?
I work with synths every single day. So just like anybody who works with one thing every single day can get a little tired of it, I get tired of it too. Sometimes it's really nice just to remove a few of the synths that I'm currently working with, put them back in their boxes, and bring out something new, something exciting. And sometimes I also take a little break from the hardware world and just, get a new soft synth or something, or deep dive into a soft synth, because that's a way to get away from the hardware. So it's a bit of a luxury problem to have, but yes, I get synth fatigued.
What's my go-to synth app or DAW when I need to break through a creative block?
The software and also actually hardware solution that helps me break through creative blocks is actually the Machina ecosystem. I know I've talked a lot about it, but for me, it's a sure way to get something done. And there's a very simple reason. It's because Native Instruments have one of the best preset managers of any software out there, like any DAW out there. And when you pair it with their hardware, and I know this sounds like the major sales pitch, but it's just that good. You can just scroll through hundreds of presets super fast, and you get a little audio demo for each of the sounds, you get a little sound preview, and this is just super quick. So what was the musical instrument that started my journey? Well, if I'm gonna give a cheeky answer, it would be the recorder. Now, the flute. But if I were to answer it for real, I would say that it really started with the Yamaha RM1X Groove Box. That's where I spent a ton of time developing my skill as an electronic musician, producer, bleepity-bloop maker.
Is there anything where I have a different opinion than the synth community in general?
Parts of the more hardcore synth community think that just putting your face on a thumbnail is clickbait. And I think that that's probably one of the most stupid takes that I've ever heard. It's so incredibly weird to me how being personal and being like a little bit likable and a little bit relatable, how that's in any way clickbait. If the content is then like a 20, 30, 50-minute long in-depth video covering something, that's a really weird opinion that a very small group of hardcore synth enthusiasts have. I guess they just want this super anonymous kind of video where there's just hands-on synths. And there's room for that. There's nothing wrong with that kind of content. But I also think that it's nice that we have more YouTubers who are personal, so you actually get to know who is making the videos, who they are, where they're coming from. And it creates a little bit more of an inclusive vibe. The longest time that I've had something patched on my eurorack is probably when I patched up my polyphonic patch, because it was so much work. And I still need to do it again to shoot my video about polyphonic patching on eurorack synths. Literally stayed patched for months because it seemed like such a headache to repatch it again. So yeah, a couple of months. So what is my dream gear? Now that's a very open question, of course. Like, are we talking synths? Are we talking something else? But I would say that I think I've answered a similar question in another Q&A, like my dream synth. Like, I would love something that has an analog sound engine, analog filters, is polyphonic, but also has a deep sequencer with sampling tracks. So basically, like, you take the Polybrute and you combine it with the Machina Plus, and you mix it all together with a splash of electron sequencing, and voila, then you have a really amazing synthesizer sampler hybrid. It would be like an MC707, but just a lot better. So something like that would be really cool. No, I haven't studied music. I did do audio engineering and music production classes back in school. We had a really nice studio. We had professional teachers that knew a lot. So I learned a lot from that. It was a really like serious education in audio engineering and mixing. But beyond that, I haven't done a lot of like music studies in terms of like instruments or music theory. So I'm mostly self-taught in that area.
Does your Matrixbrute get any love now that you got the Polybrute?
The Matrixbrute is sitting over a corner looking really jealously at the Polybrute. And for good reason. I think that the Polybrute is a much better synthesizer in general than the Matrixbrute. The Matrixbrute looks really cool, badass. It has a ton of functionality, but I've always said that since it's a paraphonic or mono synthesizer, you know, a lot of the strengths isn't really taken advantage of because you can't really do expressive chords with it, for example. So that's something that the Polybrute just does a lot better. It's more versatile, it's easier to use, and it frankly sounds better. The Matrixbrute, however, still has its place as this majestic mono synth. Sometimes I just feel that it's a lot of synth to just make a mono or a paraphonic patch.
How do you decide whether or not to buy new gear?
I actually have a dedicated video where I talk about how I decide when to buy something. And I think I make like a division between like utility items, things that have like utility purpose in the studio. So for example, if I need a cable, you know, I'll just buy a cable. There's not much to reflect on. If I know that something is getting in the way of me being productive, then I'll just acquire it. For example, I bought new cameras this year because I really needed new cameras. And then there's, of course, a lot of things that are just like vanity purchases. Like, for example, a new pair of shoes when you already have a pair of shoes. That could be considered a vanity purchase. And the same goes for a studio. You know, do you actually need another polysynth? What will it actually change for you in practice? How will it help you achieve whatever you want to achieve? So if I'm looking at buying a new piece of hardware, I'm always asking myself, okay, so what does this achieve for me that I couldn't achieve before without it? What is the purpose of this purchase? And that's difficult when you have gas and you want to just buy something because it's cool and interesting. And many times even I who work with synths every day, who make content here on YouTube, I can always like rationalize a purchase with, oh, I'm going to include it in a video. But even then I have to, you know, stop myself and say, okay, what is the purpose here? Can I do the video with another synth? Do I really need this one? Does it serve a purpose? Has anybody asked me to do a video on this particular synth? So there's always this question you have to ask yourself. What purpose does it serve? And is this a vanity purchase or does it have some sort of utility? If I were a modular synth, what would I be? I mean, I would be an absurdly large Colin Benders style polyphonic eurorack. I mean, obviously. Something that everybody knows is a little bit excessive, but also everybody wants, you know?
Is there such a thing as synth elitists, like synth snobs?
So let's talk about elitism and being snobby in the synth scene. Is this a thing? Does it exist? Yeah, I mean, of course it does. In any hobby, there are people who think that having expensive stuff, you know, makes them better in some way. And of course, there are people like this in the synth scene, but they are a very, very small minority of people. And most people are very friendly and nice, especially because most people are just here to have fun with synths. And most of the elitists, they can be found on various like Reddits, for example, and in various forums online or in Facebook groups. But they're pretty easily avoidable by choosing communities that are friendly and open. And there's plenty of them to go around.
Do I encourage my children to make music?
So I absolutely encourage my kids to make music. We have, for example, the Dato Duo synthesizer at home, so my kids can pull it out and just play around with it. And they do it actually all the time. And I'm thinking of giving my daughter a Novation Circuit, one of the OG ones that I have still. So I'm thinking of giving her one of those because it's a lot of fun to play around with. So I'm definitely encouraging them to make music. So thank you so much for watching today's Q&A, and be sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter and all the other social media platforms. I've linked them down below because that's where I post about upcoming Q&As, for example. So I hope to see you in another video, and have a great day. Ska jag?